Well, the United States elects a new president in just under 2 weeks, and the two candidates are on a bruising schedule of campaign events focusing on the key swing states. And as Election Day approaches, the tone of the debate is becoming increasingly strident.
Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted.
She's not a smart person. She's a low IQ individual. She is. She is. She's a low IQ person.
Well, polls indicate this election will be one of the closest in US history. Neither candidate has a significant lead in the national vote. And polls of those key swing states are also close. The most recent Wall Street Journal poll has Harris winning 4 of the key battleground states to Trump's 3. The Washington Post has the same, while the website Real Clear Politics has Trump winning all 7. Well, let's unpick some of that with Justin Higgins. He's a communications consultant who's worked for Democrats and for Republicans. Welcome to DW, Justin. So all the polls agree this race is going to be tight. They seem to interpret the data differently, though. How do we end up with such a spread?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal polls are singular polls that are a snapshot in time. So that is just one single poll by each outlet, whereas the Real Clear Politics is an aggregation of multiple polls. And I think it's very important to note that aggregation of polls can be very, very useful due to the different methodologies each poll uses. And therefore, it can help control for differences in sampling size, differences in the way that voters are sampled. Is it through online? Is it through a landline, a cell phone? But one criticism specifically of Real Clear, which has Trump winning all of those 7 states, is they do a poor job of weighting the individual polls that they add up to determine each state's results. So in short, they are Republican heavy, and they treat these Republican leaning polls with more weight than they should. And that's how you get Trump leading all 7 swing states.
And so can that methodology be said to be biased? Do you see polls or publications are playing to the preferences of their readers, or is that just a valid method which happens to bring these results?
Well, Real Clear Politics has a lot of criticism across the board for being rather biased because they're giving polls that maybe through an A through F scale rating, they're C, D, and F, and they are weighting them the same as A. So that is clear bias. But I think it's very important that we clarify that there are institutions like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, even Fox News that are very credible and take pride in their work, and their only goal of their work is to create accurate polls. So it's kind of like getting your news. You need to pick the sources that are predicated on accuracy and typically are praised and upheld throughout Democrat and Republican politics, and then you're going to get the most accurate poll possible.
So how close do you think it is?
I think it's a coin flip. I think it's extremely close. No matter the reputable poll that you look at, the swing states are either tied or within a point or two. And based on the margin of error of polling, we are well within that margin of error. So I honestly do not think an election can be closer. If we look at 2020, it was extremely close. Same with 2016. In Pennsylvania, only 80,000 votes in 2020 determined that state. And quite frankly, VP Harris is going to need to win that state to have any chance of pulling off this election. So it is very, very close.
Just picking up on one of your tweets, you said serious alarm bells are sounding for the Harris campaign. Nevada is slipping away due to historic GOP early voting numbers. North Carolina looks to be gone based on an NBC report from senior Harris campaign staff. Michigan in trouble due to uncommitted vote. And Pennsylvania, always a toss-up. So, Justin Higgins, this looks like you're calling it for Trump.
No. I'm not calling it for Trump. Just like polls are a snapshot in time, a tweet like that is talking about the state of the race 2 weeks out.
Right.
Democrats are in trouble, right? And they need to work hard if they want to beat back this candidate that John Kelly, his former chief of staff, and now the VP of the United States, calls a fascist. So I think it's very important that we all take a moment and realize how close this election is, how close American democracy is to potentially failing to a corrupt wannabe dictator. And Democrats need to take this seriously, give money, get out the vote, volunteer, and go all in, and not have this false sense of security, thinking that America is different than every country in the world. We would never reelect somebody like that, because right now the polling shows that we may not be that different.
Are we in an era, not just this election, but are we in the last, well, you gave us 3 elections there. Are we in the last couple of decades? Have we slid into an era where US elections are always going to be so close? What has happened?
I think we have. And when I was working in Congress as a policy advisor for a Tea Party member of Congress back in 2014, it was almost the start of this era. What has happened is a combination of social media, the 24-hour news cycles, along with political rhetoric becoming so intense and so focused on the personal identity of the other candidates that we have created a situation where a lot of voters are taking things personally, are putting politics into their own personal identity. And when you have that happen, you have folks pick a team and then do everything they can, create pretextual arguments, justify to themselves why their team is better than the other team. And inherently, folks stop listening when their personal identity is on the line. So that is a long way of saying we are in an uber polarized era where, at least for the foreseeable future, we will have elections that are on the razor's edge, and it'll take an October surprise or a better reading of the data and better mobilization efforts for your base voters to win that election. So I think we are entering a status quo here.
Fascinating. Thank you for that. Communications consultant Justin Higgins.